Why, hello, and welcome to the Capms Cast. Keeping the dream alive here at the Capms Cast on the Swords of Starships channel. I'm your host, Captain Garrett. And we just going to chat for a while. It might be a shorter one. Redoubt Productions in the chat. I see you there. Probably a shorter one tonight. We're just chatting, keeping up with the boys. Not the boys from Amazon. That show is garbage. But I have seen Michael, the Michael Jackson film. It was fantastic. It was amazing. And honestly, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on it, but I thought, you know what? I want something inspirational for the thumbnail because I got a lot of other stuff in the stack of stuff, which is fun. Just, it's inspirational, but not aspirational. You get what I mean? I had the weirdest, thing pop up on my radar recently. Starfield popped up in my feed again. I hadn't thought about Starfield in, since it came out, and I played it for like 7 hours or so, and it was garbage, and I returned it and got a refund. Unless I was I playing it for free, Mr. Producer? I know I was playing it for free and I uninstalled it or I got a refund. One of the two. I assure you I did not pay for it. I do recall that. I just hadn't thought about it in a while. And then a short popped up on my feed that was very fascinating. It was about a piece of lore in the game. And I found this piece of lore extremely striking. And then I had occasion to watch a couple of reviews of like, well, has it gotten better? Cyberpunk 2077 started out as crap, and it got better. No Man's Sky, another great example of this. Did this occur with Starfield? Well, it turns out, no. It's slop. It's garbage. Bethesda sucks. It sucks. It's crap. So we'll talk about that. We have a little bit of grave dancing to do. It's a figure of speech. It's just a little bit of Schadenfreude. A little bit of humor. We like to celebrate the failure of things that deserve to fail. So we'll do a little bit of that. I have what else was in the stack of stuff, Mr. Producer? Oh, that's right. The Mandolorian and Grogu. I don't think the prediction that it's going to make $2 billion by one of the more afflicted shills, I don't think that prediction is coming true. Now, there is some interesting chatter about the Odyssey. That's where, you know what? The Odyssey, there is trouble brewing. Trouble is brewing with the Odyssey, and we have to talk about it. So we'll get into that. We'll chit-chat a little bit. It's kind of a late one tonight. The captain was held over. So we'll see if anyone shows up. We'll see what the cat drags in. This might be the one Redoubt. Every time we turn on the camera, there is just a wee little chance this is the one where I'm not talking to anyone. It's always a chance. It never happens, but it could happen. I mean, aside from the illustrious Redoubt Productions, who says, will the captain muster the energy, the drive, the charisma to preach about the magic of MJ? We shall find out in 3-ish minutes. I don't know about everybody else. I've been drowsy all day. Thank goodness it's a Sunday, so I could vegetate. Hopefully I'm fully recovered by tomorrow. I hope so too, Redoubt. Here's wishing you a restful night. A speedy recovery. That's not the right phraseology. But no, I saw Michael Jackson, and, it's a really interesting journey, if that's the right word. I remember when I was a teenager, all of the controversy about Michael Jackson and the accusations were circling. And he did this interview, and I can't remember if it was like 60 Minutes or what. It might have been it was that type of thing. It was like 60 Minutes or 2020. It was like one of those later news magazine shows. And he did this deep interview explaining himself and everything. And I don't remember a lot of what was said. It was a long time ago. I just remember being convinced. He's not guilty. He's innocent. I don't believe what they're saying about it. And my entire childhood, all of the headlines of him were always wacko jacko, and look what crazy. Oh, he held his baby over a balcony. Oh, what a psycho. It's like that was all the time. And I just came to the belief, I would say I was probably late teens. I just came to the belief that he didn't do it. I didn't believe he was guilty. Then later, he was actually acquitted in a court of law of all charges. And I remember feeling vindicated. The prosecution did not prove their case. That's very important. Now, an acquittal does not prove innocence. Let us accept that as read. But that being said, it does prove one thing, and that was that nobody could prove, the government could not prove its case. That's got to count for something, I would think. And then this HBO documentary came out with these two guys just doing, and this was years, I hadn't even really thought about Michael Jackson in a long time, and these guys just did this incredibly detailed and graphic tell-all about the supposed crimes and abuse they endured with Michael Jackson. And I was like, you know what? I must be wrong about this. I must be out of my mind. Of course he did it. Of course he did. It's so obvious. Who else builds a theme park at his house? Like, how weird is that? And I just became, they talked me into it. And I was like, he must have done it. He must have did it. And I even had like super, well, at least from my side of it, I would call them spirited arguments. But from my friend's side of it, I had these just heated arguments with a friend of mine who was convinced he was innocent. And he was like, you need to watch this guy called Razor Fist. You need to watch his video. It'll explain everything. And I remember resisting that. I'm like, this is before I discovered the YouTube rabbit hole. I was still not in the YouTube ecosystem. And I didn't honestly fully understand it yet. I didn't understand YouTube. Asmund Gold recently said that being a millennial should be illegal, and as a millennial, and he is a millennial as well, and I think I agree with him. I think he's onto something. Anyway, that's not important. I didn't understand YouTube fully yet, and I was like, who gets their facts from YouTube? Isn't that just like the internet, and isn't the internet just full of mostly hokum? But that being said, I was like, well, okay, if I get around to it, I'll watch it. All I'm saying, and I even said, I was like, I'm not even saying that I'm 100% sure he did it. I really am not. I'm just saying that those guys were pretty convincing. And he's like, you need to watch the video. I actually never did because it's like 4 hours. But lately I've been following D-Day Cobra, the commander, Jeremy, and he's completely convinced Michael Jackson is innocent. I found this surprising. He's a pretty no-nonsense guy, and I have to admit, I wasn't even that convinced. But, his passion and his enthusiasm about the subject started convincing me, just as Razor Fist probably would have if I had listened to my friend and watched his video. But then, just little pieces of evidence started to come out, like what Donald Trump said, that, he played with his kids, and, they were good friends. He didn't believe it. Janet Jackson standing by her brother, Macaulay Culkin, now in his 40s, adamantly insisting Michael Jackson is innocent, and couple all of that with the sheer unremitting malevolence of the mainstream media. The powerful people that get away with basically murder. The media doesn't say a word, but for some reason, this guy had to be destroyed. Now, that got me thinking. Why am I listening to the narrative pushed by the very same people trying to destroy our great president, the Orange Man, the God Emperor of Man? Long may he reign, and he will. He will. and a whole host of other people. I mean, they just destroy anyone they like. Is my mic too hot? It seems it's hitting the red line. I feel like that might be too hot. Let me pull up my monitor here for a second. Yes. Okay, I think it's sounding pretty good. All right. So all of those things and several others sort of conspired to convince me that really the only evidence, and it is evidence to be fair, but the only evidence that that is of a compelling nature that he's guilty of these crimes is these two guys in this HBO interview. And let me see, how many documentaries does HBO and Netflix and other mainstream properties release that are full of absolute lies? Why should I believe anything that the mainstream wants me to believe? So that alone is my strongest piece of evidence that he's not guilty. Now that brings me along to the film. But before we get to that, Wrangler with a $4.20 super chat. Ahoy, Wrangler, and welcome aboard. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. I really do. He says, oh, you watched the movie about Captain EO? It gets me thinking, is Bill Cosby innocent? No, Bill Cosby's guilty, man. Oh, he's guilty. Is Harvey Weinstein innocent? Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair critique, okay? Is O.J. Simpson innocent? No, and no. Maybe I just want to believe Michael Jackson's innocent. That's possible. It's possible. I can't really know for certain one way or the other. But my instincts told me in the beginning that he was innocent, and my instincts did not ever signal to me that Cosby's in. It's an interesting question, though. No, I think it's a different situation. I think there's actually a relatively small number of cases where it's pretty clear, where the guilt is pretty clear. But that being said, look, could be wrong. I will say this. I think that this film, if you are of the mind, which I have come around to, that he was innocent. This film is quite emotional to watch because really, in that case, what you're watching is his nephew, Jaafar Jackson, brilliantly bringing him back to life and restoring his legacy. Now, assume for the sake of argument that he is absolutely innocent. Michael Jackson truly did nothing wrong, and he's been maligned, and so all of this was lies, false accusations, etc., ad infinitum. Let us enter that as read temporarily. That means that an innocent man had his entire reputation, his legacy, and his life's work completely destroyed by evil, powerful people, and that he died. He died having been pinned, framed, essentially, as pretty much the worst thing you can be on this planet. What a horrible way to go out. And then to watch this film is to see his own blood relative restoring his legacy on the screen. Antoine Fuqua's direction of this film, by the way, was phenomenal. Fantastic. I mean, because it combined all of the elements, the costumes, the really cool set pieces, the music, the dance moves. Jaafar Jackson, I don't know how he did it. His dance moves are incredible. Incredible. And all of that combines to create a mise en scène of energy and larger than life. Like it brings you into that moment. This film brings you into that moment when he was alive and he was the king of pop and he was this rock star. You can feel the energy of the crowd, the energy of the moment. It feels spontaneous and amazing. And it makes Michael Jackson live again. And you think about that. he's restoring the good name of his maligned and character assassinated uncle. That's incredibly powerful and moving. And if you believe, as I have come to believe, that that is in fact the case, it's an incredibly powerful film. And that being said, it can't really be proven one way or the other, but I think the evidence for me tilts against Michael Jackson being guilty. Clearly, he engaged in some odd behavior. There's no doubt about that. But I think we've become a little too comfortable with assuming one is guilty until proven innocent. Redoubt Production says, Fuqua is from Pittsburgh. The more you know. Oh, really? The Pit. But yeah, I think the film primarily centers around the conflict between Jackson and his father. That's really what the primary narrative framework of the film is, and it's very good. And, you know, what's interesting is his father is very humanized in the film. Like, he's obviously got serious problems. He's abusive. At the same time, you see a side of him that is somewhat sympathetic. It's like you can almost understand, if not condone, the way he's treating his sons, because in his mind he's sacrificing their childhood to make them something truly incredible. But of course, he becomes himself obsessed with the power and the fame and the wealth of it all. It's a really fascinating dichotomy, especially as an artist, because on the one hand, Jackson's father fashioned him into the star, the megastar that he later became, or at least gave him the foundation, like all those years of painstaking, just relentless boot camp style drills that just turned him into this incredible performer, is also what gave him the freedom to become the performer he wanted to be. So a lot of the film is about him breaking out on his own, and there's this interesting paradox, if you will, of like, on the one hand, Jackson needed to escape his evil father and gain his freedom and become the artist he wanted to be, and he deserved to have had a better childhood. But on the other hand, could he have ever been any of those things if his father had not cracked the whip, so to speak. So it's a really interesting puzzle, and it highlights something very common both to the artistic process, in my view, and the complexity of humanity, the paradoxes of our nature. It's like hardship and pain made Michael Jackson a unique, just an absolutely unique performer, the like of which we'll never see again. At the same time, that's also the torment that he endured. It's very interesting to ponder, but the film is mostly about that. That's where the conflict lives, but most of the film is kind of just about him becoming this rock star and his songs, his great moments on stage. It's a lot of fun. It's very entertaining. I really recommend it in the theater. I think it's a perfect theater movie. And it's got some really great moments. Now, I think that if you're someone who believes Michael Jackson is guilty, I just don't think you can enjoy this film, because you're going to see it as propaganda that is misrepresenting who he was. Because, there's a lot of scenes where he's sitting with sick children in hospitals and stuff like that. And he did do those things. But the context depends on what you believe. So I actually have never watched the entire Razor Fist video about whether he was guilty or not. And 4 hours would be too long to react to on stream. But I did grab a video, and I thought I would watch it with you and just see what we think. What do you say, chat? Let's just, I haven't seen this. It's not too long. I'm just going to listen. It's Razor Fist arguments about why he thinks Michael Jackson is innocent. I don't know if I'll watch the whole thing. It's not too long, but we'll just check it out. We'll see what we think. And share audio, Mr. Producer, because we wouldn't want to make a mistake. If Fu Man Blue stumbled in here and I screwed up the audio, I'd have to wear the bib. That's the rule. But that's not going to happen. Share screen, Mr. Producer. Here we are. Okay, roll tape.
So I keep seeing this thing because, like, we haven't talked much. And I heard about this like a year ago. I was on a random show. I can't remember whose show I was on, and somebody mentioned you and your Michael Jackson defense, and I don't even know what that means. So can you explain to me what that is?
I just mentioned Metal Mythos, right? I kind of did a spin-off series. It's all the same series, Music Mythos, where I covered, non-metal bands or rock bands, or I did one on Queen. I did one on Michael Jackson. And one of the big reasons that I did the Michael Jackson one was I wanted to cover the whole history of him as a solo artist anyways. After he left Motown, because like those early solo albums, he didn't really write those. They're not really Michael Jackson
Let's
albums.
skip ahead a little.
There's been documentaries about it and whatever. And it was a weird thing where growing up, I didn't necessarily think he was guilty, but it was more like, I just don't even want to get into that because I don't know enough about it. And I don't feel like sitting here like fucking Columbo, like questioning witnesses and looking over court documents and figuring out what actually happened. Because something about it never quite passed the smell test. The way the family sued him in civil court for money first, rather than go to police. And then the moment the police were interested in prosecuting, they took the money and ran.
See, now that's very interesting, isn't it? I do, I vaguely kind of remember that now that he brings it up. I do, because I remember at the time that all these trials were happening, I was kind of paying attention to like the order of events, and it was giving me a sense of like something's not right here. So yeah, I kind of had forgot about that, but he's right. The family was suing Michael Jackson civilly, but not pressing charges criminally. And that is very suspicious, don't you think? And that's a really interesting point. Continue, Mr. Fist.
Right? Like all that kind of stuff didn't really smell right. And then of course it was everyone's business in the early 2000s when he had his trial. That was fucking everywhere. They broke into live news coverage of fucking Iraq and Afghanistan to talk about Michael Jackson's trial. It was huge. So, I started out in Music Mythos just touching on that particular subject and kind of talking about why the more I looked into it, the less likely the allegations seemed. And they were pretty cursory arguments.
What do you mean there's no audio? I'm sharing desktop audio. Oh my God, Wrangler. You just about sent me into a panic. The street, Redoubt Productions says, I have audio. Yeah, Wrangler said, we have no audio. Redoubt says, I have audio. Wrangler's like, the stream went mute. Oh, my headphone wire was loose. My bad. Oh, my God. Unbelievable, Wrangler. Just unbelievable.
Jesus.
I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did me like that, Wrangler. Redoubt Production says, crap, I'm just being reminded how old I have become. Oh, stop it, Redoubt. Just stop it. I first discovered Razor Fizz for his Queen video while preparing for my final presentation in AP English senior year. Am I old? If you are in your 20s, you're not old, sir. Enjoy it. Have fun. Enjoy being young. It's fantastic. I'm enjoying being middle-aged because it's better than being old-aged. It's great. I love it. It did. My blood pressure spiked. Yes, that's right, Wrangler. You need the bib now. You go get that. Wrangler gets the bib. Did you hear that, Flubman? Yes. Crowbar the Skull says, "Hail all, sorry I'm late." Crowbar the Skull, welcome aboard, sir. Better late than never. That's what the old lady always says.
There's some evidence from the trials and whatnot, but mostly it was more like my impression of it. Then after that, I got so much feedback on it, good and bad, because people are very passionate on this subject, that I felt the need to do a follow-up. And I vaguely remember, I think what happened was I released that. Rich from Review Tech USA, that fucking autistic asteroid, he fucking got really cranky. He got his tits in a tizzy over it and said it was not true. And then he posted, there was a series of articles about how Michael Jackson had molested kids that he kept posting on his social media. And at that time I followed him because we kind of moved in the same circles. And finally I was like, all right, fuck this. And I released a full Michael Jackson rebuttal and basically dumped on this diabetic golem. And then that was so big, and I didn't even touch the surface in the first one. And then there were more developments too. Keep in mind, like between the first Michael Jackson rebuttal and the second, I think Wade Robson, who had defended Michael Jackson in court in the early 2000s, and James Safechuck, who was going to but didn't. Anyways, they were both defenders of Michael Jackson for years. They came out for money once again and accused Michael Jackson after his death of having molested them. And so I did a second part that touched on that a little bit. And then I did a third proper part where I really dismantled not just them, but their accusations and the documentary, which had just come out, Leaving Neverland. Right. Yeah. That was the big thing that came out several years ago. So, yeah, I wound up basically becoming the Michael Jackson rebuttal guy without really intending to. It was just that the story kept, like, there kept being new developments because Wade Robson and James Safechuck's cases kept moving forward.
And that's the two guys from Finding Neverland. So, you know, I just am... I should have come across this a lot sooner. You know, I wasn't like a huge Michael Jackson fan. You know, I knew of him and was well aware of his music and everything. I wasn't like myself, like a huge fan. His music is undeniably awesome. And I will say, like, the set pieces in the film where he's doing Billie Jean, Human Nature, and a Thriller. Oh, the scene with Thriller in the movie is fantastic because I always loved Thriller as a kid. Who doesn't? It wasn't that I was resisting watching Razor Fist videos. I'm actually super intrigued now. But at the time, I was like, this, whether or not Michael Jackson is guilty or not just isn't on like the top of my priority list to figure out. So I regret that I never took the time.
Yeah. I remember hearing about this. I have always, and I actually, when I was on this show and I heard this, there was an intense debate happening where one person was like convinced that Michael Jackson was guilty. And then I was kind of like in the background, but I've always been a huge Michael Jackson fan. Like for some reason I have like 10 Michael Jackson songs on my metal playlist and it doesn't make much sense, but I do.
Well, and I'm not. That's another interesting thing. I mean, I'm a fan of him now, but growing up, I wasn't really. I heard the Dangerous album when I was really young, liked it, didn't own it, had a friend who really, really liked Michael Jackson. He was a big fan. Like, my best friend was a big fan.
Yeah.
My mom, I guess, growing up, really liked Michael Jackson. She was one of those, I liked him till he started looking weird kind of people. There's a lot of people who fall in that category.
Like, any hard evidence to really like link him to anything that I've ever seen. You know, is there any of that?
It was he said, she said.
Yeah, yeah.
And the police questioned witnesses and their descriptions of, for example, his genitals didn't match, which is why they didn't enter it into evidence in 2005. That's another thing people don't realize is basically they tried both cases at once. California allows you to try 1108 evidence, which means evidence of prior bad acts. So in 1993, they had a bunch of evidence that wasn't used because the family took the money and ran and didn't cooperate. So in 2005, they had the opportunity to question those witnesses and introduce that evidence. And they did. And Michael Jackson was acquitted on 14 fucking counts, including 4 lesser misdemeanors. So like they couldn't get him on anything, including.
Now, understand that in our legal system, even though you are innocent until proven guilty, which in practice, what that means is the burden of proof is on the prosecution. The defense does not have to prove innocence. They only have to prove that the prosecution's evidence cannot beyond a reasonable doubt establish guilt, right? This is, I often ponder the question of why the United States of America has remained such a free society for so long. 250 years? That's a long time. How is it that the country has not fallen into some kind of coup or dictatorship or one-party state sooner than the trend is showing? And there's a lot of various things. Most people will say, well, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights protects us. The Bill of Rights is in order of like the things that are the most responsible for protecting our freedoms. The Bill of Rights is like the least effective. It might as well be toilet paper in terms of its actual. I'm not saying it isn't important. Don't misunderstand. I'm saying that does it actually in practice protect our rights? I think it's the weakest firewall protecting our rights from any kind of abuse. COVID demonstrated that. They broke every single of the top 10 amendments. They broke every single one. They practically banned the First Amendment in 2020. So clearly, it doesn't actually have that much force. So then what is it? What is it that actually you could say, well, it's judicial review. Congress can pass laws, the president can sign them, but judges can overturn them and whatever. It's like, I don't think it's that either. Sam Alito argues that, was it? No, I'm sorry. It's not Sam Alito. It was Justice Scalia. Justice Scalia argued that it was the separation of the states, if memory serves. It was essentially the fact that we're like 50 separate states and that creates competition among the several states. And, others argue the separation of powers, which is important. Don't get me wrong. I do think that's a much bigger factor. The fact that we are a federal republic that separates power among the states. But I have come to believe that one of the number one firewalls protecting our freedoms in a lasting and enduring way is a trial by the jury of our peers. 12 citizens of our peers are the only ones that in a criminal trial can establish guilt or can establish that the prosecution did not prove their case. Only they can judge it, not judges. Now, you can waive your right to a jury trial if you choose as a defendant. You can say, I want the judge to be essentially the jury. You do have that right, and sometimes defenses use that because it can be helpful in some cases. But in reality, it's the fact that your peers are entrusted with the responsibility of judging you. I think that one firewall is one of the most valuable elements of why we've remained as free of a country as we are, because it gives that is an enormous burden of power given to average ordinary citizens. And it's very interesting to me that in a republic, in a system, a legal system in which prosecution does not bring a case unless they're pretty much sure they can win. I mean, it is hard to get a defendant off compared to getting a prosecution, getting a conviction for the prosecution. Like, the prosecution comes when they think they can win. That's pretty much how it is. Otherwise, it's going to be a plea bargain or something like that. The fact that on, what was it Razorfist said? I think he said 14 separate counts. They took Michael Jackson to a jury trial with 14 separate counts, and they couldn't get a conviction on any one of them. And you better believe that they had stacked that deck as much against him as they possibly could. That's freaking impressive, folks. That is really impressive. Now, you could argue O.J. Simpson was acquitted by a jury of his peers, and that's a fair point. It does say something, though. That's very hard to do. That is really hard to do. And it doesn't happen all that often in those kinds. That's a high bar. Thank you, Wrangler, saying like and subscribe. I appreciate that, Wrangler. Celebrities are disfiguring their faces. Michael Jackson did it before it was cool. You know what's interesting about that? I was researching that, and I remember as a kid, everyone thought Michael Jackson, this was the narrative, that he just wanted to be a white guy, and so he started bleaching his skin or something. But he had vitiligo, which resulted in varying pigments of skin, and so he would put things on his face to even his skin tone. The problem is a lot of those treatments were very harsh and aggressive, and they kind of worsened the situation. So over the years, now he did do a lot of plastic surgery to fix his nose and stuff. So that's fair. That really was cosmetic. But a lot of the actual paling of his skin, it really wasn't his fault. I mean, you can't expect a performer to just suddenly become, have multiple skin tones and allow their, I can understand a performer being like, no, I have to have an even skin tone, and it just made it worse. So it's kind of an interesting point, but roll tape.
Giving alcohol to a minor, the whole Jesus juice nonsense. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
That was bloody murder headlines for a long time. Turned out to be total bullshit. And they couldn't prove any of it. And in fact, probably the most persuasive thing about the trial, and the reason why it ended early and why Michael Jackson was so roundly exonerated, was because witnesses started breaking down on the witness stand, admitting this thing didn't happen, or that thing didn't happen that way, or they kept backing up on their stories.
Stop the tape. So now consider this, dear viewer. The strongest evidence that has ever been entered against Michael Jackson, really the only meaningful evidence of any kind, and to this day, there really is no other evidence, is eyewitness testimony. That's all they have. And part of the reason that they could not establish guilt and beyond a reasonable doubt in that jury trial is because the witnesses started having problems giving a consistent account and started backing off their stories on the stand. Well, that's reasonable doubt. That means you could be dealing with a liar here. You can't convict a man if the witness can't even keep their story straight. And that's it. That's pretty much the entire evidence of the case.
Ezero just demolished them. And it's unfortunate because I did the same thing for the Bill Cosby accusations, which I'm not sure if the accusations are true, but I did make a video because I don't feel like he got a fair trial.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, the state agrees, which is why he's out of prison right now. He really didn't get a fair trial. That was massive.
You may have a point, Wrangler. I mean, well, I will say this. I definitely think that no matter whether the guy is guilty or innocent, I think in these high-profile Hollywood trials, it is always exaggerated. It is always, I think they just pile on and they exaggerate everything they can. So I'm not saying Cosby was innocent. I don't think he was innocent. But he may not have been quite as malevolent as they're portraying. It's possible. I'd have to look into that. I really don't know. Everything I've seen seems to confirm that he is. But then again, so it was with Michael Jackson. Now, the O.J. Simpson thing is a little bit of a different case. There's a lot of reasons that whole thing fell through, and part of it was the cops at the time, DNA evidence was pretty new. They really screwed up the chain of custody on the DNA evidence, and it introduced reasonable doubt, which that's just how it goes. It's like if the cops screw up the evidence and it can't be established, then, it's possible a guilty person's going to go free. Also, the trying on the glove in the court thing was the lamest fiasco, I think, in the history of televised legal drama, televised legal events. So I think that's a different issue because it's not like, the only evidence they had was witnesses against OJ, and the witnesses started giving conflicting stories and having all kinds of issues. It was like, no, there was physical evidence, but the cops screwed up the chain of custody and essentially detonated the case.
Prosecutorial misconduct. But the same thing happened in that case. The same lawyer just got these women to admit they fabricated their stories on the stand, and somehow in the public eye it still doesn't matter. People just assume
They don't care.
both men are guilty. Yeah.
They don't get I'll have a friend, like
So that's a pretty interesting kind of like short summary of Razorfist's case. And I find that quite enlightening, quite helpful. So a hat tip to Razorfist for giving us the short version. As for the long version, I will have to check that out at some point. Wrangler saying you can convict a guy for that now if he has the wrong opinions. I think the excesses of the Me Too era are somewhat behind us at this point, but you're not wrong. I don't think it's as bad as it was 10 years ago, but you're not wrong. So let's poke around in the stack of stuff and see what else we've got. No, not that one, Mr. Producer. Let's see here. Okay, just for fun. I came across this on EFAP, and we're going to check it out real quick. But, just to close the loop on the Michael Jackson story, the movie is fantastic. I'm convinced he's not guilty, and I'm convinced he's innocent. And from that perspective, Jaafar Jackson's brilliant, incredible performance, and Fuqua's like amazing, just all inclusive directing. Film critic from the approved critic class. It was an all-inclusive. Go see the movie. It's great. Okay. Where is share screen, Mr. Producer? It's just for fun. I always load up some funnies. Apparently, Chris Stuckman rewrote Man of Steel. Now, why would you do this? I don't know, but he rewrote. He had that's right. No, it wasn't Man of Steel. It was Batman v Superman. He wrote an alternative script for Batman v Superman. Now, Batman v Superman is I think it's probably the worst superhero film of all time. I just think it is awful. It is dumb. Like the plot to it is stupid beyond belief. But aside from that, it's slow, it's boring, it's depressing. Lex Luthor is awful. It's just a miserable mess, is Batman v Superman. Unfortunately, it also had some of the elements that made Man of Steel and the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League in it that are some of the good qualities. I mean, Zack Snyder, for all of his problems, some of the things in Batman versus Superman are really good. Like the scenes where, people are just, reaching out to Clark and he's like, Superman is saving people from rooftops in a flood. And just there are things in it that are really good. I have Ben Affleck's Batman has grown on me, et cetera, et cetera. And actually Wonder Woman is pretty good in the movie as well. She is actually a bright spot in that film. But that being said, it's overall, it's a pretty awful, miserable, depressing film. It's pretty bad. Chris Stuckman undertook to rewrite the film, and he somehow made it worse, which is impressive. When I tell you, I sometimes say that these awful things that we're subjected to, such as The Acolyte, or Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, or Snow White, it's like when or the Marvels, we're subjected to these things, Daredevil, Born Again, and I often will say that these are written by really stupid people, really dumb people that eat glue. Well, it's interesting to see one in the wild once in a while. I was trying not to rhyme. I didn't want to rhyme. It's interesting to catch one in the wild once in a while. And that's exactly what happened with Mahler and the boys, and 1-800-DANKY animated it for us. So here we go.
Rain assaults the ground as Batman...
Okay. So... They're reading. So the EFAP boys are doing a table read of Chris Stuckman's script for a rewrite of Batman v Superman. This is incredible. This is incredible. I love this so much.
And takes large, powerful steps towards a figure descending from the sky. The striking silhouette of Superman explodes into view as lightning flashes across the clouds. The two titans lock eyes as Superman's boots hit gravel. Batman breathes deeply and
The way he drew Superman's butt is so bad.
rights himself. Superman shows no signs of apprehension and begins advancing towards his opponent. Within moments, the two colossi are standing inches apart.
I admire your courage.
I imagine bravery isn't something you're accustomed to.
Challenging me isn't my idea of bravery.
You don't know the meaning of the word. You've never tasted fear. You've never felt pain.
How is that? This is unbelievable to me. Like, you know, I hear this is a rewrite, right? Ostensibly, the purpose of a rewrite is to fix the structural plot and character problems in the story. First of all Stuckman is doing is mostly plagiarizing what was already there and just tweaking it. But he's trading the lines that were in the original film, which were pretty bad, for also bad lines, but they're just hackneyed cliche. They're just hackneyed lines. They're just the obvious dialogue choices, and it's so you're just taking what was already there and just lowering it to a lower standard, just making it less sophisticated, more cliche. How is that possible? How could you do this?
That's about to change.
Lightning erupts in the darkened sky. Superman focuses on Batman's cowl, utilizing his X-ray vision.
Bruce Wayne? I'm actually impressed.
Batman
God.
remains silent.
I'm surprised you can find time to kill criminals in between drinks.
A tiny smirk appears on Batman's face.
That's rich. How many people could you have saved while you snapped photos at that party?
Superman is taken aback.
What, you thought about it? You thought a pair of glasses could fool the world's greatest? The world's greatest detective.
I won't tolerate vigilante justice.
Then keep out of Gotham.
Branding your victims. Murder. What separates you from them?
Don't lecture me about death. Thousands were killed the day you decided to help. The lowlifes I put in the ground would have hurt good people. You nearly decimated an entire population because you chose not to leave Zod out of the city.
So I should have just stood by and let him destroy the
I love how Stuckman has converted. He's converted an audience opinion. A fucking internet audience opinion. He is converted into dialogue. So stupid. This is so bad. How do you take an already bad movie and write it worth? Folks, when I say stupid people that eat glue, Chris Stuckman. This is a terrible rewrite. This is terrible. This is so bad.
planet. The people you've killed may be criminals, but they're fathers, sons, brothers. You've crossed the line, and I can't accept that.
Every single line's a cliche. Every line is a cliche.
Zod snap neck.
God.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, go back a little.
Aye, and let him destroy the planet. The people you've killed may be criminals, but they're fathers, sons, brothers. You've crossed the line, and I can't accept that.
Tell that to Zod snap neck.
God.
How do you tell something like that?
How do you tell?
You're not saying it to it. More like more like at it. You're speaking at something.
Wow, I cannot believe this script is real. They're playing it on the screen. This is so crazy.
Like, you don't talk to a rock. You talk at a rock.
Tell that to Zod's snapped neck. You know, every now and then, I'll be working on Galaxy-Born.
Laying there on
Galaxy-Born, my upcoming novel. And I will be experiencing the subtle existential dread, you might say, of, oh my God, is this cliche? Is this terrible? I'm not, this character's awful. Or just general feelings of like, this is not good. But you just got to power through it because that's just the process, But seeing this reminds me, you know what? On my worst day, I'm not that bad. On my worst day, I'm not as bad as a Chris Stuckman rewrite of Batman v Superman. So I feel a lot better. That was really nice. I appreciated that. What was that? He Stuckmanized it, said Crowbar the Skull. Yeah, exactly. That's what getting Stuckmanized is. Now, listen. If the guy weren't such a dishonest... how can I put this, Mr. Producer? I have to put this delicately. If Chris Stuckman were not the kind of guy that just cravenly adopted the policy of like, I'm going to circle the wagons and never criticize my peers because I also want to be an artist and a filmmaker, which is as dishonest an attitude as I've ever heard. If he weren't like that, I would have more sympathy for him. But to declare that I am an artist and artists don't criticize other artists, it's like, well, that's fucking stupid. That makes no sense at all. Artists criticize each other all the time. Do you think that Mozart did not criticize other composers of his time? Do you think that Shakespeare didn't have rivalries with other bards? Of course he did. You just don't remember their names because Shakespeare was the best. Quentin Tarantino loves to just go after his fellow creatives, and I love it. I think that's the correct attitude. I think, now that doesn't mean that you be nasty to someone you're working on a project with actively, but to not be able to criticize someone's work because you're in their business, it's lame. It's why it's so impossible and insufferable to listen to these celebrities. They just seal clap for each other. It's awful. Redoubt Productions says, man, just mentioning Snyderverse makes me lament what we could have had with Henry Cavill. I mean, in spite of all the problems with Batman v Superman, Henry Cavill remains just awesome in that movie. Just the best Superman. I think in retrospect, is he better than Chris Reeves? Objectively, no. But he's my favorite. Redoubt Production says, I really hope the Highlander remake works out. There's only a 1% chance that remake will be decent, but if it does work, it'll finally give Cavill a leading role he can have to the fullest. I hope so too. I'm not a Highlander guy. I've never understood the Highlander series. I've never been into it, which probably seems odd for a guy with a channel named Swords and Starships. I probably should be into it. I just missed the boat on that. He lives forever and he fights a lot of duels. I don't know what it's about. I really don't. There could be only one. I know that part. Why does Batman look like Han Solo in the Star Wars Christmas special? It's Rambo. Crowbar the Skull says, for even cringier dialogue, sounds like AI dialogue, nuance free. Exactly. No, it's incredible. He took Snyder's, Snyder's writing isn't, at least on a dialogue level, it's not bad. It's just that the underlying structure of the story is terrible. It's like, so Batman's reasoning for wanting to murder Superman is he says to Alfred, if there's a 1% chance that Superman is bad, then we have to kill him. And it's like, oh, that's a terrible. You're saying if there's a 1% chance he could turn against us, he doesn't get to live. That's psychopathic. That's crazy. But that's the calculus. So that's what's bad. But the actual writing is fine. Even if I were just reading, I would hate it. I would hate Lex Luthor's interpretation no matter what in that movie. But if I were just reading his lines and not having to look at the insipid performance of Jesse Eisenberg, I probably wouldn't hate it even as much because it'd be like, that works as a villain. So it's a serviceable script for the most part. And somehow Stuckman turns that into, he just plagiarizes the good parts and then just inserts the audience opinion as a cliched line. I am sorry, Stuckman. This is not your skill, bro. This is not your talent. It's not going to happen, man. He knows it. He knows it. That's why he's so miserable all the time. He's a YouTuber who wants to be a writer. I, on the other hand, am a writer who wants to be a YouTuber. It's a tough place to be. I'd rather be the latter. I really would. That's why you haven't seen much of me, because I'm like, I actually probably I should be a writer, and then I'll get back on the YouTube train. But I'm working on it. The writing is stabilizing a little, so I probably am going to be able to ramp up the channel soon. The pitch is simple on Highlander, says Redoubt Productions. There can be only one. Well, I know that. That's the one thing I know about it. Speaking of which, how far are you along on Galaxyborn? How far along are we on Blue Girl Marlene? Blue Girl Marlene, is that what you think Commander Bayala is? That's Commander May Bayala, the first officer on the... Oh, sorry, I wasn't sharing screen. Back to camera, Mr. Producer. Yeah, there you go. You're talking about the Blue Babe. And, of course, I often get asked, like very often, why are busty alien women always blue, Captain? And, I'm a very dedicated science fiction writer. It's important to me that my universe feel grounded and lived in and real. And as such, I'm not given to flights of fancy. And so I want to give the most grounded and realistic answer I can. And so my lore accurate answer to why busty alien women are always blue in science fiction is because it's hot. Because blue women are hot, okay? That's why. See Liara Tassoni and the blue chicks in Star Wars for examples, okay? Even the Na'vi, they're a little bit, they could be better endowed, but even the Na'vi. A Scotsman played by a Frenchman is trained by a Spaniard who really is an Egyptian played by a Scotsman to battle Mr. Krabs across time to the sounds of Queen. That's the purpose of Highlander, says Redoubt Productions. Now that clears it up a lot, actually. Sorry, you asked a question, Redoubt, and I got distracted. How far along am I on Galaxyborn? I think I'm at about 45%. I'm at about 45% of the rough draft, which I would say that I will probably be ready for beta readers in 2 months, I think. That is my... No, wait, hang on. Let me think about that. No, I better say 3 months. I better say 3 months is my target to have beta readers. But the first entry in a series always takes the longest because you're establishing the world, the characters. It's a lot of work. Once this one's done, the next one should go faster. That was my experience with Blood and Oak, and that will likely be my experience here. So check it out, galaxyborn.com. Go to www.galaxyborn.com. Enter your email to be sent relentless and highly constant update. No, I'm just kidding. Almost never updates. No, there will be updates. I swear. Just put in your email. Do it. Go to www.galaxyborn.com. That is how the advertisers, the commercials in the late 90s and early 2000s, that's how they would say it. Because the internet was still a little bit, the popularity. The internet was actually not new in the late 90s. It was the widespread popularity of it that was new. And that was how they would advertise websites back in the day, because every business had to have a website and it was new. Usually you would give an 800 number and that was how you contacted the company. But now it was an 800 number and a website. So they say call 800-555-7872 or go to www.galaxyborn.com. Go now. And they always sounded that way too. Like there was a weird echo when they said the W part. I don't know why. I would always be like, why do they say it like that? Every time. Why do they say it like that? www. How do they do it even? www.galaxy. Okay, that's enough of that, Mr. Producer. All right, moving on. Note to the ship steward: caffeine no longer to be served to the captain before streams. Now, what do I want to do next, Mr. Producer? I think, we have a problem, chat. We have a serious problem. I don't know how else to tell you this, but trouble is brewing.
Now shall you deal with me, O Prince, and all the powers of hell!
That's right. Trouble is brewing with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Okay, now, as you may or may not know, I am a huge fan of Christopher Nolan's work. If any director has a body of work, a portfolio that is just rich and storied and legendary, it's Christopher Nolan. On his worst day, which would be the film Tenet, he's better than 90% of directors out there. Tenet is nonsense. It's actually still pretty enjoyable to watch because the action scenes are incredible. Incredible. He has intense choreographed fights in which one character is moving backwards in time and another character is moving forwards in time. Why? Who knows? But it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. That being said, the plot, the sound design, what the hell is even happening is a complete dumpster fire in Tenet. It's still a pretty excellent film in many ways. Now, there's other films that are great, if not favorites, such as Dunkirk, which really is a masterpiece. It's just not one I want to watch very often. The Dark Knight Rises, which is a worthy finale to the Dark Knight trilogy, but it's a terrible Batman movie, which is the problem with the Dark Knight. It's a great Bane movie. I will give it that. It's a great Bane movie. Do you feel that you're in control? There's no money here. We're a stock exchange. Really? Then why are you people here? That was what it was. There's nothing to steal here. It's a stock exchange. Really? Then why are you people here? Oh man, Tom Hardy is such a boss. But anyway, my point is, there's good Nolan movies, and then there's the great Nolan movies. Inception, Memento, The Dark Knight, Batman Begins. Batman Begins is like the best hero story ever. The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero films ever. It's like my vote for the best superhero film of all time is The Dark Knight. And then you have Interstellar, truly transcendent, one of the best films I've ever seen. It's in my top 10 films of all time. And Redoubt Productions noting that Dunkirk has a very rare problem where the director was too stuck on practical effects. I know that sounds strange, but those beaches needed to be filled with many more people, not to mention a handful of planes in the sky. Yeah, Dunkirk is kind of an interesting one for sure. There's a lot about it that's amazing. I do think, though, as kind of genius as it is, the layered time difference between the beach story, the ocean story, and the air story, although there's something very cool about that, and almost like fire, earth, water, and air kind of element, the different time scales, and the way all three timelines come together in just an incredibly brilliant action sequence on the water, like all that's wonderful. At the same time, it's a bit distracting. What I'm getting at is that I have Oppenheimer. I almost forgot. Oppenheimer, I just rewatched it, and it's just it's better on the rewatch. It's so fantastic. The story of the American Prometheus, the father of the atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer. Incredible. Probably his fourth best film, in my view, is Oppenheimer. The Odyssey, which is one of my favorite stories of all time. It's one of the greatest stories ever told. There is no reason that this should not be an absolute masterpiece. Really, it should be his best film of all time. It really should be. Folks, we got a problem. It's not looking like it's going to work out. So let me grab this. We've got the Critical Drinker to help us out here. I have not seen this video yet, but I saw this and I'm like, yeah, I think he's hitting on a theme here. We have got some really weird casting going on in this movie. We've got some really strange creative choices. I am really worried that this film, at first I was just worried the casting choices like Zendaya and Lupita Nyong'o and John Leguizamo. I was worried that these casting choices would be bad, but that the film would be great, and I could enjoy it anyway. Then I started to become worried that, wow, these are actually really bad casting choices that are going to just pollute and kind of destroy the Greek heritage of the story and be extremely distracting. Some of the stuff I've seen lately, I'm now beginning to get worried it might actually be a bad film. Now, I'm not commenting on whether or not it will make a lot of money. I think probably the strength of the Nolan brand is enough that it will make a tremendous amount of money. But I have a feeling, even more than Tenet, I think this might be his first ever bad film. And that's scary, folks. First of all, I don't want Christopher Nolan to ruin the Odyssey for me. But second of all, I don't want Christopher Nolan to ruin Christopher Nolan for me. Please don't ruin Christopher Nolan for me, Christopher Nolan. Share screen, Mr. Producer. Let's roll this tape and let's see what we're dealing with here. Hat tip, Critical Drinker.
If there's one genre I'd love to see make a serious comeback, it's the historical epic. Swords and sandals, gods and monsters, battles and adventures, legendary warriors and terrifying villains. I mean, Hollywood's flirted with the idea from time to time over the past couple of decades, some more successful than others. Don't worry though, 300, you'll always have a special place in my heart.
Hell yes.
This is Sparta!
Hell yes.
But it seems like this year, things might finally be changing. Christopher Nolan has turned his gigantic quantum space brain...
Dude, this is Sparta. That cry, as performed by Gerard Butler as King Leonidas, or Leonidas, depending on how you think you pronounce it, that was one of the best things ever in the trailer. It's a purely American way of delivering the message of freedom. That is a very American way of delivering the message. You know what I'm saying? So the trailer, it was already great in the trailer, and then the movie came out, and it was even better. And it was like a meme before memes was the concept. it's hard to overstate how essential to the culture this is. Sorry, hiccup there. This is Sparta was. Okay, roll tape.
Away from discovering the secrets of the universe and assembled one of the biggest all-star casts in modern Hollywood for The Odyssey, a retelling of Homer's epic saga about the Greek king Odysseus and his decade-long journey to get home to his family after fighting in the Trojan Wars for another 10 years before that. Meanwhile, his wife has to keep the home fires burning and contend with the unwanted advances of men who want the crown. It's actually kind of hilarious when you look at all this on a map, because a journey from Troy to Ithaca is only like 500 miles by sea, and it should have taken him a couple of weeks, but man, the gods just had it in for that fucking guy.
Honey, I'm home!
Look who the fates dragged in.
Anyway, stories don't get much more epic than the Odyssey. It truly is one of the great adventures in human history, blending together mythology, religion, monsters, and the unbreakable determination of the human spirit, and bringing it to life on screen is a challenge that will strain the very limits of modern filmmaking. But now that I've seen the trailer and I've considered the artistic vision behind this movie, I have to say my reaction was... meh. I don't know what it is, man. There's just something about this movie that doesn't quite stir anything in me, which is pretty surprising because in theory at least it's got all the ingredients for success. The kind of source material that's practically tailor-made for epic Hollywood filmmaking, the kind of all-star cast that only comes together once in a generation, and a director with a, mostly, good track record as a filmmaker. So why the fuck does it feel so bland?
I don't know. I look at this cast, and you know what I think? That is the Netflix Odyssey movie to me. That is Netflix does the Greek Homeric tale of the Odyssey. You know something? The film Dunkirk, I remember this. I read, not only the film Dunkirk, but also came out around the same time, and arguably it's an even better film, the film 1917. Right, these two films about World War I and World War II, respectively. But I remember Nolan getting criticism, and I remember the filmmakers of 1917 getting criticism for the lack of diversity in the cast. There was not enough people of color among the English troops in World War I. And it's like, because there weren't any. Because that there weren't any in those situations. Because it was none. I mean, there may have been an exception here or there, but at that time, it was Englishmen. Ethnic Englishmen were the ones in the World War I trenches, and Germans and Frenchmen. So, but I remember the criticisms being leveled at Nolan, and they were preposterous, and I have to wonder, I think it got into his head a little. I think it's gotten to him. I think he's genuinely nervous. He's like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep having historically accurate films about European cultures. I can't do that. So I'm gonna have to make put a little color in there.
Well, there's the source material. Nothing wrong there, right?
Wrong.
Well, the problem is that the Odyssey was originally written in ancient Greek, obviously, meaning that it has to be translated into English for it to be legible, and what kind of story you ultimately get very much depends on which translated version you read. In this case, Christopher Nolan has publicly stated that he's a big fan of the 2017 adaptation of the Odyssey, which was translated from Greek by British writer Emily Wilson. Why exactly does that matter? Well, because Emily Wilson just so happens to be a hardcore progressive feminist who specifically set out to reimagine Homer's text through a female-coded, gender-critical, postmodernist lens. Because of course she did. Basically stretching the very limits of the original text to bend it around modern sensibilities. It's the same kind of creeping, cloying, well, I think what he really meant to say here was bullshit that gave us 2026's Animal Farm, a story that went from a parable about the Russian Revolution to a ridiculous, shallow, capitalism bad piece of Hollywood slop. That is the version we're likely to get here with all its gender identity navel-gazing, and if that doesn't raise a few red flags, then let's take a closer look at that all-star cast, shall we? Now, Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway are solid enough as the two leads, at least. I mean, if I was to be super critical, I'd say that Hathaway hasn't done anything particularly significant since, well, the last time she was in a Christopher Nolan movie, and she was arguably the worst thing about Interstellar, but that's a conversation for another day. I can't say I'm ever particularly excited by an Anne Hathaway project, but holy shit, is she making a comeback this year. In 2026 alone, she's in 5 separate movie projects.
Yes, Redoubt. Angel Studios Animal Farm. What an unmitigated disaster. The absolute hubris and arrogance to convert George Orwell's cautionary tale about communist tyranny into just another, like, it's not even that it's original, just another anti-capitalist rag. It's just, my God.
One of which is playing in the cinemas right now. But speaking of overexposed actors that we could all use a break from,
my God.
Zendaya is in this movie as Athena, the goddess of wisdom.
You gotta look at her resting bitch face for the entire movie being the goddess of wisdom. Great. I'm really excited for that.
Holy fuck, man, this girl's become the female equivalent of Pedro Pascal. She is just everywhere all of a sudden, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why. I have never seen a single Zendaya performance in my life and thought, oh my god, she absolutely carried this movie. Tell me.
I really think that with people like Pedro Pascal and Zendaya, part of why this happens is because in that industry, it is not your resume, it's who you know. And it's your connections. And I just think that those people just have connections. And there are just deals being made, and they're the beneficiary. It's a Game of Thrones. And she's Littlefinger. That's basically what I'm saying.
What's your favorite Zendaya expression? The angry frown, the confused frown, or the confused angry frown?
Yes.
Elliot Page is also in this movie. As what exactly? I don't fucking know. A drummer boy, maybe? Page is like 5 feet tall and weighs 90...
Supposedly, this individual is going to be playing Achilles.
£90 soaking wet, so I don't really see how they're going to fit in amongst all those big Greek soldiers and terrifying monsters. Lupita Nyong'o is widely rumoured to be playing the Greek princess Helen of Troy, which if it turns out to be true would make about as much sense as Papa Asuido playing Severus Snape, but hey, what can I say?
It's Hollywood, baby.
Thank you, Rachel. But the thing that stood out for me about
I know.
the entire
Wouldn't it be
cast
great
in
if
this
Rachel
trailer was just
Zegler
how
were in this?
bland.
I almost wish that Nolan had Rachel Zegler in this movie. Oh my God, you could even hear it already. She's like, yeah, this is not going to be the Odyssey that you're used to. The Odyssey was written 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, and very evidently so. It was mostly written by ancient Greek men, and you can really tell they had a very... And we're definitely not going to have Odysseus trying to get home to his wife like a stalker. Oh my God. It'll fit perfectly. At least Achilles dies, says Crowbar. Yeah, it's been pointed out that it's kind of an interesting casting from the perspective that Achilles in the underworld is miserable and is wasted away and is a shell of his former self. And it's like, Wrangler says, why is Kitty Pryde Juno playing a dude?
And mundane they all look and sound. Every time I saw one of them, all I thought was, oh yeah, there's Robert Pattinson, there's Charlize Theron, there's Tom Holland. Where are the larger-than-life mythical figures of legend that should be leaping from the pages of Homer's epic to amaze us all? It all feels weirdly subdued and underwhelming, and a big part of that decision is to have them speak with American accents using modern terminology.
My dad is coming home.
Oh, you're...
You know, I was watching... I was rewatching a couple favorite episodes of Game of Thrones recently, the Game of Thrones show, and it struck me how really well done the way that they speak is in those Game of Thrones shows, including Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, including House of the Dragon. Just the way that they speak, it doesn't sound overly contrived, but it also does sound medieval. Like, it's easy to understand, but it also sounds like a product of its era, its time, and its place. For example, like how they refer to, birthday as name day, or, they say grandsire, or they're like, your mother by law, just the way that they communicate things in which it's clear to the modern, I don't mean it that way. It's clear to the current audience, but it also sounds like it belongs. It's not anachronistic. How hard is that to achieve? I don't think it is really that hard. Redout saying, I really hope we're wrong about this version of the Odyssey, but if the critical drinker is in fact proven right, well, I will be able to announce, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou remains the best adaptation. Me personally, I'm a fan of the Armand Assante made-for-TV movie. That's like my favorite. I loved that movie. Armand Assante, made for TV. It was fantastic. It's a great interpretation of the story. And it has Armand Assante. Well, this is why I filed this under the category of troubled brewing, Redoubt Productions, because it remains to be seen. But look, trouble is brewing. Trouble is brewing. And we got to call it out.
Your dad's coming back, is he? Did he take some bitchin' selfies? Hope he didn't get godmogged along the way. There's a reason movies like this traditionally use theatrical English and formalized language for their dialogue. It gives them a sense of grandeur.
Which, by the way, OG Star Trek did the same thing. OG Star Trek did the same thing. And what's funny is, as I'm writing Galaxy Born, which takes place 300 years in the future, almost exactly, it is definitely a tough needle to thread, because I'm trying to craft dialogue that sounds grounded and natural and conversational, but I don't want it to sound too much like the way we speak today. I don't want there to be too many phrases that you would recognize as a current day phrase. I want it to sound somewhere between the way we speak now and maybe how Star Trek does it, with this kind of theatrical speak. So I'm working on it. I really am. But I do think there was such great wisdom in how Star Trek, and frankly, a lot of science fiction shows like Babylon 5 and so forth did that. They did that really well.
And dramatic weight that naturally lend itself to the epic story they're trying to tell. Having your actors talk like they just walked in off the street in downtown LA just feels weirdly lazy and immersion breaking. And before anyone chimes in with little pearls of wisdom like, Drinker, you know as well as I do they would have spoken Greek in a story like this, so why does it even matter what accents they use? Well, hypothetical straw man, we all know the language they would have spoken, but we also know that having your entire cast learn a whole new language just so the audience can sit through 3 hours of subtitles is neither practical nor logical. That doesn't mean that you have to go in completely the other direction and give us shit like this. Let's go! And this all brings me back.
Wow. I only watched that trailer the once, but I'm kind of amazed at how much of that I missed. Let's go. That's like Chris Stuckman did a rewrite of the Odyssey. I think Chris Stuckman did a rewrite of this. I hope you come back, Dad.
Back to the man at the center of all of this, Christopher Nolan, the director and writer. Now, I know the man has a fan base so rabidly loyal that they make Snyder Bros look like fucking normies.
Look. Let's set the record straight. The captain, that would be me, Captain Garrett of the Captain's Cast on the Swords of Starships channel. Please like and subscribe. My loyalty is to the work and to the good story. There is absolutely no creator anywhere that I would not throw under the bus for their bad work, okay? Never going to happen, including yours truly, although it's hard to imagine such a scenario. Roll tape.
He's given us some fascinating films to chew over in his time, but I'll be honest here, the guy can also be his own worst enemy at times.
True.
Sometimes he really is just too smart for his own good. Rightly or wrongly, he's developed a reputation as a clinical, intellectual, and slightly sterile kind of director.
He absolutely is. And that, if that were the only issue with the Odyssey, I'd have no problem at all. I kind of like Nolan's odd sterility. I really do, which is probably a strange thing to say, but I do. That's just his style. That is his style. His stories are intellectual. They're philosophical. They do pull on threads of pathos, but sparingly. To the point that it's almost got an odd quality in and of itself. But that's his style. Take it or leave it. And I'm okay with people who are like, yeah, I don't like that. You know, I can understand, you know, some of the critiques of Interstellar from that perspective. And I understand that. And I'm okay with that. I like the style. And I'm okay with seeing the Nolan version of the Odyssey. I'm okay with that. The problem is, I think we're getting the Netflix version of the Odyssey.
A master of ideas who can't seem to wrap his head around simple humanity. And I get the impression that's always chafed at him, especially with his more recent movies where it feels like he's got something to prove. Like the weirdly out-of-place love scenes in Oppenheimer that feels like two androids replicating their understanding of a human relationship. The man definitely has a niche, but character-driven historical epics don't seem to be it. And with Odyssey, it's like he's saying, see, there's more to me than sci-fi thrillers and slightly overrated superhero movies. And I don't know, man, from the casting to the dialogue to the bleak washed out cinematography, I can't shake the feeling that he just isn't the right man to direct a movie like this. I mean, shit, maybe I'm totally wrong on this one. Maybe the Odyssey will be the crowning achievement in Nolan's career and rake in more money than Avatar, or maybe it'll turn out to be his own personal albatross. Time, as always, will tell, but I'll be interested to see how it pans out one way or the other.
All right.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Hat tip critical drinker. As always, an excellent analysis. And that really is the problem that I see with this film on the horizon. It's not just a matter of the casting. It's not just a matter of the casting. The casting's a problem. I am deeply concerned that this might actually be truly bad writing. Like, that dialogue is cringe. And then, I'm pulling something else up that's kind of noteworthy. And I saw your comment, Wrangler. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. But the Little Platoon had a great quote tweet, okay? There is this kind of narrative going around online that this movie's going to be a flop. And I think it's mostly coming from those of us who despise wokeness in all of its forms, especially in cinema and art. And there's a temptation. There's always a temptation towards wishful thinking, which is that anything woke is going to fail. And that is, I'm not saying that the Odyssey is going to be woke. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But there's the anti-woke side of the internet that is trying to claim that this movie is going to fail, it's going to be a flop, and that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Now, it might result in Nolan's brand being severely damaged. It might underperform. That's all possible. There's no way this movie is going to flop. That's just not in the cards. But that being said, it's a... See, this is why you can never abandon reason and rationality when you're analyzing these things. You cannot allow yourself to fall prey to wishful thinking or arrogance or this egotistical need to just have a good thing to say online. I mean, that's interesting and be like, oh, this movie's going to be a flop. You don't know that. And the fact of the matter is, you must seek evidence for your claims. You simply must. Or you make the mistake of underestimating your enemy. Wokeness cannot be defeated by wishful thinking. It must be defeated by its antithesis, which is great art and in all of its forms. Never make the mistake of underestimating your enemy. Never. And to say that this film is going to flop is to underestimate the rot in our artistic culture. So the little platoon is responding to this guy basically saying, I really want to ask all the Nolan fanboys if they still think this film will make $1 billion at the box office. Bruh. I'm here to tell you, call me a Nolan fanboy if you want. I'm here to tell you that this movie looks like it might be Nolan's first ever full-blown tire fire. And I mean, will it make exactly $1 billion? Maybe it make a little less. It's possible. It's not going to be a flop. So the little platoon had this to say. He said, I'm not a Nolan fanboy, but I think the Odyssey will have to be one of the most stinky movies of all time not to come close to $1 billion. Really stinky. Not just being aggressively wrong in nearly every historical detail, because that was never the core of the story. Homer himself could have been accused of much the same thing, given the liberties he took with places, settings, weaponry, armor, etc. Liberties he took to make it relevant to the modern audience of his day. It's the Odyssey. It's one of the strongest stories ever created. The damn dog is in the trailer. It's almost impossible to imagine a version of that beat that doesn't make you cry. The movie could be, and probably will be, an appalling adaptation in every respect. And it'll still benefit immensely from the strength of the story that underpins it. And that is, in my view, an excellent analysis by Little Platoon. And that also concludes this segment of
Now shall you deal with me, O Prince, and all the powers of hell!
So, yeah, trouble is brewing, but we'll see what happens. We'll keep a sharp eye on it. Wrangler had a comment, though. Let me get back to it real quick here. Where was it? I lost the chat. I got too many windows open now. Where was it, Wrangler? You said, I'm struggling with the proper verbiage myself. I wrote journal entries by a Spanish explorer in the late 1500s, but it sounds too much like a regular dude. So, like, my opinion on this is I think you can take some liberties because you don't want it to sound stilted or wooden. But, you know, what I would suggest is maybe read a novel that takes place in that time period. Maybe read some Alexander Dumas, you know, like get a feel for just the speech patterns and draw from that. Or maybe even see if you can find some journal entries from Spanish captains in the 1500s. Read some of their journal entries, like they exist. So that's what I would do, because whenever you're really that much in doubt, you really should go back to the research. But that being said, I think that shows like Star Trek really did this well, which is they don't speak exactly the way we do. They speak in a kind of, I don't want to say formal, but they speak in a kind of theatrical style, a kind of proper style. And it works well because it allows... Now, it works particularly well in Star Trek because we're meant to be seeing these as civilized characters. But that being said, like, you know, Gul Dukat, the way he speaks to Sisko is like a Shakespearean character in many ways. So I feel like you got to find that halfway point. Crowbar says, also, Nolan knows how to fool people. I mean, fool people in what way? His movies are what they are. I don't see that as fooling people. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. Fooling people to me is what the media does, you know, where they say, oh, this was the most popular streaming show on Disney. It's like, that's fooling people. You know, does it work? I don't know. But I think Nolan presents the story he wants to present, and for some people, it's not great. And for other people like me, I like it most of the time. But look, if he makes a stinker, I'm going to call it out. Tenet was a stinker. There's no doubt about it. And it didn't, as I recall, I don't think it did very well either. So, I mean, Nolan is not infallible, and he's not immune to the same pressures as any other talent that makes a mistake. Now, that being said, it's time to move on to our next topic, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, this is a film, unlike the Odyssey, I am fairly certain that Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be garbage. Garbage. Pretty sure. I've seen all the trailers, and there is nothing in these trailers that's all that interesting. So, that being said, I came across a fairly... Is the word neutral too strong of a word? There's a fairly, he's not really a culture war channel. He's more of a straight up neutral kind of reviewer guy. I think he tilts a little in favor of current thing, but not too much. His name is Emergency Awesome. That's the name of the channel. And he has seen the film and he's done a review. It's about 11 minutes. I'm going to check in on this review and just see what I think about it. Now, there's a lot of creators I could have sought out that would maybe excoriate this film, maybe praise it and shill for it. I chose this guy's review. I haven't seen it yet. I chose this guy's review because I consider him someone who's a little bit, for lack of a better term, sort of apolitical when it comes to the culture war. So he's watching it. He's a blue pill. That's what he is. He's a blue pill. That's as fair an analysis as I can get. So I want to hear what he thinks about the Mando and Grogu movie, and let's just see. Yes, share screen fooled you. Dark helmet, very very drawl wrangler as usual. Roll tape. All right, enough of that.
Screening of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie for Star Wars Day, so this will be my non-spoilery review. It is the first big Star Wars movie in theater.
Yeah, got all that.
Star Wars in theater. Anybody that was foolish enough to...
Why do people start YouTube videos that are, this is a review of the film? Why are you starting it with all this boring crap I already know? It's the first Star Wars film in all these years. It's like, who cares? Who cares? Sorry, I'm not trying to tear into this guy, but that's a big pet peeve of mine. It's a major pet peeve with YouTube videos for me. I do not like it when they state really obvious things to open the video. It's like having to read a preface or a foreword or an introduction to a book. I skip them always. I always skip forewords. I always skip introductions. They annoy me. They annoy me. And that's what it's like on a YouTube video. It's an introduction. It's a preface. I don't want the preface. I know that it's the first Star Wars film in a long time. Well, maybe there's people in the audience who don't know. Then they've been living under a rock, and they should just go watch something else. They should go watch something that explains things that everybody else already knows, and let me get to the video.
Try and record it, or Dave Filoni probably would have tried to tackle them in the theater. Disney very publicly changed their plans for the Mandalorian series, while Jon Favreau...
I get what this is. This is filler. He can't say enough about the movie, so he's filling up the time with a bunch of minutia that, is irrelevant.
Was in the middle of working on...
Yeah, I know all that. Who cares?
The brand on this movie, as well as the Grogu character in a couple other movies that we've seen stuff for. Ryan Gosling's Star Wars Starfield.
Oh my God, this is almost unwatchable.
A season of The Mandalorian typically...
I don't care.
Armorer had started to give him more big upgrades from Season 3 Grogu, where they left off with him. The Armorer had started to give him more Beskar armor. Mando had already given him his chainmail Beskar shirt.
How is this? Oh my God. Dude, Grogu is like the living personification of it seemed like a good idea at the time. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Unfortunately, some concepts, when taken to their farthest extent, proved to be absurd. A little mini male shirt? It's so bad. It's almost like you're watching Pedro Pascal dress the doll in his dollhouse. This is bad. This was a big problem with Mando Season 3, to be honest, is I started to get this weird feeling about it, where it's like, I'm watching a fucking puppet do all this stuff. He's like fighting other Mandalorian kids, and it's like it's almost like when I was a kid and I had a toy and I was making the toy jump around and do things because it was pretend and make believe. It feels like that. Crowbar the Skull says, "Is that real? His own little mithril chainmail shirt, adorable." I know, but it's so. It's not adorable. It's weird to me, and I mean, it's just. It doesn't come across well. I don't mean like in some kind of nefarious way. I just mean it doesn't. It just takes me out of it. You know, it's like, oh look, it's a little male shirt. It's green guy in a little coat. Green guy in a little coat.
And when they ended season 3, he was going to start training Grogu to work as a bounty hunter with him, working out of a...
Just the way he walks, even wear this chainmail you must. Yeah, exactly.
Delphi base
Wear
for
this
the New
chainmail you
Republic.
must.
Grogu in the movie is way more active in the story than he was in any of the previous seasons of The Mandalorian. He has way more action scenes, way more scenes of him just being by himself.
That's all right, Wrangler. No, I'm not going to hassle you over a mistaken homonym. I wouldn't do that to you. We're all friends here.
Without Mando and having to do things, and more of him using his force powers, but also just regular action scenes too to show off how smart he is, even though he's a tiny little baby.
Compression gauge and the primary reserve.
The pace of the movie was way quicker than a typical Mandalorian episode, but not quite as warp speed as, say, like the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Jon Favreau knows what he's doing, so like he did let moments breathe when they needed to breathe. There's a lot of Season 2 level comedic moments. If you remember the way they weaved in humor to the Season 2 action, it's a quicker pace version of that. And I say specifically Season 2, just because it had gotten more comedic than Season 1, but not quite as over the top as Season 3. All the trailers did not do the movie justice. A lot of the scenes that they released in the trailers, especially the ice planet at the beginning of the movie, felt very different in the actual cut of the movie I saw, particularly because of the music. One of the weirder things about the way they marketed the movie is that Ludwig Göransson came back to do new music for...
He said it felt different. In what way did it feel different? That's what's relevant. That's what's relevant to this review. He's not saying anything. He's saying things without saying anything.
For the film, it's fantastic. I love all of his Mandalorian music for all the seasons, but none of the music is actually in the trailers. They just use generic John Williams music from the classic trilogy. Which is also
really?
great, but the way they use Ludwig Göransson's music...
Oh, my God. Oh, which is really great. They just recycle old music, but it's which, of course, is great. Shut the fuck up. You know... There's only one thing I can think whenever I get this exasperated with people like this.
Oh, you think it's slop. That's fine. But we live in a world full of hogs.
In the actual movie made the scenes in the movie feel very different in a good way. Like I said, classic Mando, the best parts of the early seasons. Also, another big Star Wars first in the movie, they actually had opening credits, which you usually only see on traditional big TV shows, but very cool detail. They also gave...
It never ceases to amaze me how the shills and the blue pills, they are so easily amused. The things they focus on are just so irrelevant. Well, typically, it doesn't have the title sequence like this. Usually, you don't see that unless it's in the show. Who fucking cares? Like, who cares? Who cares? What was the movie like? Oh, my God.
Pedro Pascal's Mando doubles...
You know, in the words of Rip Torn in Dodgeball, this review is about as useful as a cock-flavored lollipop. I wasn't going to laugh, but I laugh even when I think about that line. That boy is as useful as a cock-flavored lollipop.
credits
I cracked
during those
myself up.
opening titles, like real big prominent opening titles. Pedro Pascal did wear the suit in parts of the movie. He was under the helmet for parts of it because they needed him there to film scenes when they took the helmet off. There are also some action scenes where he is not wearing the helmet. But usually when they filmed the series episodes and a lot of the movie too, they had two other people walking around in the suit under the helmet. Brendan Wayne, who was the grandson of John Wayne, and Lateef Crowder, while Pedro Pascal would typically just do the voiceover lines. I haven't heard Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau talk about this particular detail, the opening credits, but I think this was them trying to give the two of the suit doubles the credit they deserve, because typically Pedro Pascal got all the credit for the Mandalorian character in all the seasons of the TV show, when you're watching Mando episodes, typically you're watching one of those two other people under the suit.
How is this what you care
about?
about?
The idea is that they played as big a role in creating the Mando character as Pedro Pascal.
They deserve to get the credit.
But they get paid like a tenth of what Pedro Pascal gets paid.
Oh my
Probably
God,
less
he's
than
white
that.
knighting for the
We gotta talk
fucking
about Sigourney
body
Weaver.
doubles.
She was amazing. She felt like she just naturally belongs in the Star Wars universe. That's mostly because she's just a great actress in general, but she's just extra cool because she's already a queen of science fiction. She ate all the technical speak and jargon that Jon Favreau threw at her like it was breakfast.
The remains of the Empire want another war, and a new power is coming.
She is now collecting Disney franchises like Infinity Stones. She has been now in pretty much every single big franchise movie that Disney does. She's been in Pixar movies, Star Wars movies now, Marvel before because she was in The Defenders. She's in the Avatar movies, and obviously they own the Alien franchise, and that's where she's mostly known from, is the classic.
Oh, is that where she's mostly known? Thank you for filling me in, Emergency Awesome. Thank you for explaining that to me. What the fuck is this? This has to be one of the least useful reviews, commentaries, YouTube videos I have ever seen.
In movies. Zeb was also great. He gets a big upgrade from his smaller cameo during The Mandalorian Season 3. Star Wars visual effects and creature work has always been amazing. They also spent extra time, though, polishing the visual effects for this movie, and you can definitely...
I'll tell you something. Project Hail Mary has ruined me for this movie. I'm going to sit through this and suffer on the cross for you, my dear chat, because I need content. But if it were not for that, there is no scenario where I ever watched this movie. I had zero interest in this movie before I watched Project Hail Mary. Now I have negative interest in this movie because I was reminded by Project Hail Mary what great science fiction actually is, what cute, lovable characters actually are. Star Wars is a joke. Star Wars is a fucking disaster. Have you thought about this for a minute? This is pathetic. I was just watching Andor again recently, and I was struck by how brilliant the writing is, even when it's boring. And yes, it has some boring scenes. I will admit that, hand to God. But even when it's boring, sort of like a bad Nolan movie, it's still pretty brilliant and interesting. And it just kind of brought, and I'm not even saying it's a great Star Wars thing from the classic. I understand, like Starfield, our dear Master Gunner, doesn't like Andor because it's too serious, it's too self-serious. I get that. I understand that. I have no objection to that complaint. I still love it. I still find it, but it's intellectually nourishing. That's the thing about Andor that's different, is that it's intellectually nourishing. The Empire is lethal and frightening in it. When you see a firefight with blasters in Andor, you think, good God, this is why you miss a Jedi. This is why you wish a Jedi were with you, because they would make this a snap. But without a Jedi, this is a lethal, terrifying firefight. It's great. And it just makes it that much more crystal clear how useless all this slop is. This is the corporatization of art. This is the corporate strip mining of art and culture and fandom. They are strip mining like the Empire strip mining Gorman. to build the Death Star. These corporations are strip mining everything we've ever loved, and they're strip mining us. Us. They're using our love of these things to create a never-ending product line. And this drooling idiot is sitting here obsessing over how much the stunt doubles are getting paid and whether Zeb was good. And the fact that the reused John Williams, the reheated John Williams score is so good to hear. Shut the fuck up. I can't even take it anymore with this guy. Okay, a couple more minutes.
I loved all the stuff with the Hutts. There are way more Hutts in this movie and Hutt lore than you have seen in any Star Wars ever.
Who cares?
And the TV shows, including animated Clone Wars. Because
oh my God. I've never seen so much obsession over things that don't matter in my life. I wish Fu Man were here. Fu Man isn't here. I feel like he would have a lot to say about this. No disrespect to you, my dear Chad, of course. Word Out Productions says, we are not asking you to suffer for this one, Captain. I'd say save the money for Backrooms coming out in a few weeks. Floppy lightsaber, keep it, you may. Wrangler, that's so good. I know. That is the best. From how it should have ended, the Acolyte. Your floppy lightsaber, keep that, you may. That's so funny. I need that as a meme I can play on command. Let's see. Let me just skim through this just a little bit. You know what's amazing about this? I still have no idea what this movie is about, whether it has a compelling villain. Like, I'm not expecting him to divulge details, but just tell me what your sense of it was. Was it epic? Was it interesting? No, it wasn't. You hated it. It sucked. And that's why you're obsessing over things that don't matter.
Eggs for the classic trilogy, as well as specifically classic lore in toys. So if you were a huge Star Wars toy collector back in the day, or like really deep lore in concept art from back in the day, or you're into the newer vintage stuff that they're releasing, or you have watched all the TV shows, including all the Clone Wars from start to finish, you will have a lot of fun. But none of the references slow the movie down. It never felt like it was too much for the movie. Like I said, the pace is lightning, like it moves real quick. My biggest complaints of the movie is that in service of moving things along so quickly, making it such a brisk,
here we go.
Fun watch for brand new...
Oh, now we're getting... it's such a brisk, fun watch that you didn't even notice that nothing happened! It's Orwellian. It's Orwellian the way they speak. Backrooms, what is it? That's Redoubt Productions with a trailer for Backrooms. See, okay, this isn't the worst example, but this is also a pet peeve of mine. Redoubt, and it's not. I'm not criticizing you. Don't misunderstand. It's just purely me going down a rabbit hole. But this is a thing that drives me nuts. Even with things I enjoy and like, I hate titles you can't make heads or tails of. I hate titles that when I hear the title, I have no earthly idea what it's about. Anime kind of gets a pass where this is concerned because that's just how anime is. Half of the titles in anime don't make any sense until you watch it, such as Dan to Dan or One Piece or Blue Gender. What the hell does that mean? Blue Gender. It happens to be one of the best animes ever made, but you won't understand that until you watch it. So anime gets a pass. But like anything else, if I can't understand what the title means, it annoys me. Doesn't mean I won't watch it. Doesn't mean I won't love it. But it annoys me. Now, the other side of this is something that has a title so obvious that it's lacking all imagination or art whatsoever. For example, because this just popped up on a streaming feed. Greenland 2 Migration. I still can't get over it. It's like the dumbest title I've ever heard. It's so stupid. Greenland migration like a flock of geese. We're going to migrate again. Oh my God. Well, because you see, the reason we titled it that is because in the movie, they have to migrate. Oh, geez. Like, genius. It's like the dumbest title I've ever heard. So there's two sides. There's two sides of the scale. We want to land somewhere in the middle of the bell curve. You know what I'm saying? So I see something like Backroom, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Backroom of what? I have no idea what that refers to at all. Highlander is a good title. Highlander's a great title. It suggests something rustic, something powerful, a man of the Highlands. That doesn't tell you what the movie's about, but it's enough. It's enough to go on. It's enough to start walking. You know what I'm saying? What's another good example of just a really bizarre title? You have no idea what it means. You're like, what is that even about? You tell people about it, and they're like, what the hell is that? I wish I could think of a better example of this. I'll think of it. Anyway, moving on.
To audiences that know nothing of Star Wars and didn't watch the Mandalorian series before, some of the villains and the other people they go up against throughout the movie are just a little bit weaker, just did not get the writing that they needed to, the time they would get during a normal series. And honestly, I really did want to see The Mandalorian Season 4, so I was kind of bummed out that they cannibalized that to make the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Wow. Just, you know, I was not like predisposed to think this guy was a shill or anything, and I'm not saying that he is. I mean, he might be, probably is. That has got to be the most worthless, irrelevant, and inane review I have ever seen on YouTube. Horrible. I never downvote almost anything. But I'm making an exception for this one because that was a waste of my time, but kind of entertaining from that perspective. So that being said, I think we need a palate cleanser. And the best thing to do when you discover someone who is afflicted with the disease Shillery by proxy, which is a debilitating, terrible disease, it causes people immense pain in life. They suffer, folks. They suffer. Those afflicted are known as shills. And when you encounter them, the best prescription, not for them, but for us, is a healthy dose of laughter and ridicule at the shill's expense. And the man for that is Mr. Grizzy. Because he's on top of this. He is on these shills, these Mando and Grogu shills, like white on rice. Here we go. Oh my God. She's got the crazy eyes. Oh, jeez. I'm just going to upvote this one in advance. So, hat tip, Mr. Grizzy.
I really dug what I saw for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I can't wait to see the rest of this movie. If the point of me seeing this footage was to get me more excited for this movie, I am sold on this movie. If the point of that was for me to come out here and tell you guys about the movie more, then yes, it sold me.
I'll be thinking that somebody in this room is selling out.
Well, well, well. Looks like once again Disney Lucasfilm is calling in the shill influencers in a desperate stunt to try and build hype for The Mandalorian and Grogu.
I have to sell you. Say.
What was that?
I have to sell you. Say. I have to sell.
Oh, that's a little bit of a Freudian slip there, Roca. I have to sell you. Oh, what did I say? I have to sell you. You bet your ass you have to sell us. This is dead internet theory par excellence here. I mean, just think of it. Disney, these companies, they just go out and they just go get, when they can't sell, they just go find people to pay them to create fake enthusiasm for their garbage.
Tell you. Say, I've seen 25 minutes of this, and I have enjoyed the shit out of the 25 minutes, and I've seen it twice now.
Wow.
Want to be an NPC shill influencer? Get invited to events such as...
Wrangler says, I'm going to make an anime and call it Sunbeam Tea Kettle. That sounds about right, actually. And you know something? It'll be like the most popular, famous anime for like 2 or 3 years. People will tell you, have you seen Sunbeam Tea Kettle? And you'll just be like, why would I watch something about a tea? Oh my God, it's so good, man. Oh my God, the battles are incredible. Battles? Regarding tea kettles? No, you don't get it at all. No, I don't. You got to see Sunbeam Tea Kettle. He'd be like, okay, so what is the Sunbeam Tea Kettle? No. Tea Kettle's the name of the character. Why is he called Tea Kettle? Well, it has to do with how he got superpowers. What? that's like every anime, man. It's like Sunbeam. Oh my God, when the Sunbeam happens in the show, you can't even believe how good it is.
These and be featured in Disney Star Wars promotional material, well, there's only one rule you have to follow.
Must be positive. Must not criticize. And bonus points if you're gay or trans.
Oh my God, I just saw 25 minutes of The Mandalorian and it's pretty damn good.
Star Wars fans, you're not going to want to miss this in IMAX.
What the hell was that?
I have not been this excited in a long time.
It was incredible to see Star Wars back on the big screen.
There's no other way to watch it.
Why are you gay?
And it also just reminds you why you fell in love with Star Wars in the first place.
You will be oohing and awing at the action.
It felt like being 11 in the theater with my dad.
Holy Jesus.
Oh, God.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
You are a transgender.
And it just never stopped. Everything about it was so much fun.
It's truly a Star Wars movie for the next generation.
Loyalty to Disney. Loyalty to the brand. Loyalty is salvation. Loyalty is life.
You know what the funniest thing about this little Mandalorian and Grogu promotional hype video is? It's that this is Disney showing us who their target audience is. And that they don't even care how crazy some of these people are. As long as they are positive towards everything Disney Star Wars does, they will promote them and they will give them access.
Pathetic. You're a freak.
And I am back.
Oh, God.
Pathetic.
It's so awkward looking at the way his hand is on Dave Filoni's shoulder there. Because it's like... it just looks awkward. You're pathetic. You're a freak. I like...
Pathetic. You're a freak.
And I am back from a galaxy far, far away. I just got done watching The Mandalorian and Grogu IMAX special, and wow.
And yesterday I did.
You know what, Crowbar? You are so right. You are so right. You have set me straight. I have been corrected. Because Crowbar says this is why you're not supposed to watch normie channels. I have learned my lesson, okay? I have learned my lesson. Here I am. I'm just trying to be like some kind of fair and unbiased online commentator. And I'm like, let me pick a sort of neutral, not necessarily culture war, not necessarily a full-blown shill, but just, something in the middle, something a little vanilla. Let me just see what they think. And I'm served up the most irrelevant nonsense I've ever. Well, the guy that plays normally he only suited up 2 times for this movie, but there's clearly a couple of scenes where his helmet's off because they definitely wanted to show that Pedro Pascal was really in the suit. What are you talking about? Who cares? That's just unbelievable to me. They didn't pay the guy in the suit this much money, and they should have paid him like more than that.
See the first 25 minutes of The Mandalorian and Grogu without spoilers, of course. It was awesome.
I am more excited for this movie
That
than
is
I
a
ever
strained smile if I've ever seen one. That is a forced smile. Look at this. Look at this. By the way, this is the shill that predicted that this film would make $2 billion. Guess what he just found out? Can you guess what he just found out? He just found out this movie's not going to make $2 billion. He just found that out. And that's why this smile was a little tough to pull off.
It was awesome.
I am more excited for this movie than I ever thought I would be.
Really? What a shock.
And I always get worried going into Star Wars events like this because I don't know how people are. The internet is a very toxic place, and there are a lot of toxic Star Wars fans out there. But
just stop being such a bitch. Go watch your movie, and if you enjoy it, just enjoy it, and tell us what you think about it. Liking garbage like Mandalorian and Grogu is not what makes you a shill. What makes you a shill is being bitchy about the fact that people disagree with you. That's what makes you a shill. That's what makes it pathetic. Stop it. A lot of people hate Interstellar. Hate it. Some people I highly respect think it's one of the dumbest movies ever made. They're wrong. I don't care. I love it. And I tell my audience all the time why I feel that way. Unapologetically. That's all you got to do. Just own it. Own that you love it. But no, you have to turn it into some kind of, it's like, well, you're weird if you don't like it. This is why the shills are insufferable. This is why they suffer, folks. This is why they suffer.
This specifically just kind of healed my heart.
Yeah, so the event that you went to, which was put together by Disney, where everyone there was specifically invited by Disney.
You know what's amazing is, as much as I love Project Hail Mary, and I love it, I love that movie so much. Would I ever come on this channel, my dear chat, and tell you something as fucking stupid as it healed my heart? It healed my heart. That I might. What, Mr. Producer? Well, I'm a sentimental guy. I just don't think I would phrase it that way. How many times? No, I didn't. You can't produce evidence of that. Whatever. No, it's all right. I don't need the receipts. I don't think I would say it exactly that way. I'm pretty sure I'm cooler than that. I really am. Unpause the video. Roll tape.
But tonight we're actually going to an IMAX preview event that I was invited to by Disney and, of course, Allied Global Marketing. Thank you so much for inviting me. They're going to show 25 minutes of footage from the film.
That was a nice little non-toxic safe space for you, huh? God, I can't wait for the reality check these people are going to have when this movie comes out.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. This movie makes $1 billion easily. Like, difficulty extreme easy. The hard goal for it would be to make $2 billion.
Right. Now again, I gotta reiterate, because I always get one of these in just about every video I do, I'm not saying that Disney directly pays these people to come on here and be positive and to give positive reviews. But they do profit indirectly from selling out to Disney and Disney Star Wars. For example, a lot of these people are going to get to see the movie several days, maybe even a week prior to the general public seeing it on release day.
So definitely hit that like and subscribe button if you're a fan of this, because I will be reviewing this movie early. I can't say what date I'm seeing the movie, but I am seeing it, and my review will be up before the movie comes out. A couple days at least.
So their non-spoiler reviews will be up days prior to the film's release, which is a big advantage to have as a content creator on YouTube. You're most likely going to get a lot more views and a lot more ad revenue than everybody else who has to wait until May 22nd.
And my review will be up before the movie comes out. A couple days at least.
And if Disney likes their reviews and likes what they have to say about the movie, reminder, rule number 1.
Must be positive. Must not criticize.
Then there's a pretty damn good chance that Disney will invite them back to the next big theatrical release. And these shills, these NPC influencers, and these fake fans know that. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.
Hat tip, Mr. Grizzy. Oh man, I needed that. I just really needed that video because, oh my God. I made such a mistake. I owe you an apology, chat. I owe you an apology. That Emergency Awesome video was a disaster. That was a complete fiasco, and I blame you, Mr. Producer. You should have stopped me. You should have previewed that video, and you should have talked me out of it. Well, you should have tried harder then. He thinks I could have been talked out of it. I did that. Complete disaster. Completely irrelevant. Okay, what else do we have? So we're going to wrap it up here. But I have I'm probably going to save this for next Captain's Cast, okay? I just want to give you like a little kind of a teaser. As you may or may not know, I started playing Starfield when it first came out. I was pretty excited for that game coming out. I was thinking, Bethesda, I don't feel like they would screw this up. I thought this could be the best. I was actually a little nervous. I was nervous that the Starfield universe would just blow the doors off because it's like, here I am trying to create Galaxy Born, and I know this is a bit irrational, but it's a competition, man. Mass Effect is one of the greatest science fiction universes of all time, but I sense they're just not going to do that much more with it. I know they're making another one, but I have a bad feeling that like we've seen the best of Mass Effect. It had its day. It went before its time. And that's part of my honest inspiration to create my own science fiction universe is I'm tired of criticizing Star Wars and Star Trek and wishing there was more Mass Effect, but there just isn't. And it's like, I just have to create something. That's my answer to it. And so I'm working on that. But here comes Starfield. And my first thought is, this has the potential to be one of the best things. This could be one of the best games of all time. You've got the open world success, the proven open world success. I'm just watching things in the Discord. I see you in the Discord. Join our Discord, by the way. The link is in the description. It's fun. You'll have a good time. Combine that with the obvious potential of exploring strange new worlds and having your own ship and an engaging story in which you craft the character and their moral choices in a thriving galaxy. And that's going to be a banger right there. And then I play Starfield. And aside from the obvious nonsense of like selecting body type A or body type B, and are your pronouns he, him, or she, or aside from all that nonsense, the game commits the cardinal sin. It's boring. Boring. It is the most you talk about Nolan having a lifeless style. Some people argue that his style is very sterile and clinical. Nothing I've ever experienced in a video game is as sterile, clinical, empty, and lifeless as Starfield. It is crap. Now, the reason I bring this up, I hadn't really thought about it very much in recent years, but just lately, I've been seeing things about Starfield here and there. The Steam player count, which started out at like 200,000 concurrent players when it was released, dropped to basically nothing. It has crept back up to something like 20,000 active players, I think, on the Steam charts, which is a tenth of what it had at launch. But nevertheless, it's making little gains. And so there's this theory that it's been improved, like Cyberpunk 2077 or No Man's Sky. It's experiencing something of a renaissance. Is this true? Well, I came across this video in my feed, okay? And this is very interesting because I never got very deep in the lore of Starfield. I didn't play it long enough, and there really isn't any lore in Starfield that's worth your time. But now, the basic backstory. Okay, this is the thing about Starfield. It's a ludicrous amount of potential. Imagine open world, exploring alien planets, making moral choices. It could have put Mass Effect to shame. A Skyrim in space. Think how incredible that could be. The potential is just absolutely limitless. It takes place in a grounded, it's kind of like The Expanse, but with faster than light travel. It's sort of, the basic premise of it is sort of grounded. There's these different factions. It could be so cool. And there's this implied idea that like this is humanity in the future, right? I never got far enough in the game to find out what the status of Earth was. Now, in Mass Effect, in Star Trek, in Is there another good example? I would say, let's just take those two. Mass Effect and Star Trek. We know where Earth is. Earth is the capital of the Federation, or in Mass Effect, it's the capital of humanity. There's a little bit of a backstory. You never visit Earth, but you're aware of its existence. And in Galaxy Born, Earth will have a role. It never occurred to me to find out what the fate of Earth was in Starfield until this came across my feed. Okay, do you want to know? In this glorious canon they created for Starfield, Halo's another good example. Earth is a very important narrative piece of the lore. It is the precious, sacred homeworld we must protect from the Covenant at all costs. Would you like to know what the imaginative, creative, glorious backstory, the status of Earth is in Starfield? I've never felt so vindicated and validated in my life about deciding what a piece of crap a game was until I saw this. Watch this. This is what Earth is in Starfield. Are you ready for this?
Earth in Starfield is quite a bit different to the planet we know today, but if you do decide to explore the ruins of humanity's home, you may discover a few remaining landmarks. These include the Empire State Building in New York, the pyramids in Cairo, and the Shard in London, each with a snow globe depicting the locations in their former glory.
Okay, so wait, what? I'm watching it, so if you're just listening, it was showing you what the Earth looks like in the Starfield future. It's a complete desolate wasteland, and all that's left of humanity's works is a couple of random buildings in the middle of nowhere, like the Empire State Building, but everything else is a desolate, barren desert. I should have bookmarked this. Let me see if I can find this real quick, because that was too short. Asmongold clips. Okay, let's roll this. Let's see what Asmund says.
Where's the other planets? Oh, there's Earth. Why don't we go to Earth? Oh, shit. Why is it gray? Yeah, I want to land. Oh, shit. Bro, is this because of global warming? Chlorosilane. Chlorine. There's no oxygen? I'm assuming that the, what's that fake science thing that they always talk about?
So, just so you understand, Earth in the Starfield future has no atmosphere that's breathable or survivable. It basically has no atmosphere at all. It is like the moon. It's completely barren. Everything is dead. Everything. There's just a few hints of what was left of humanity.
About the ozone layer. That the ozone layer got destroyed. There's got to be something over here, right? Bro, Earth fell off. It did.
All of this
So the reason for this, as explained in the canon, is that the invention of the gravity drive, which is what makes hyperlight travel possible, which was tested on the moon and was based on ancient alien remnants on Mars. Basically the industrialist who invented the hyperdrive did not, well, actually he did know, but the point is they were testing the gravity drive and it destabilized Earth's magnetosphere and destroyed it. So now the Earth is unprotected from the sun's solar wind, and it was starting to blow away Earth's atmosphere. So Earth had something like 50 years to live. So they loaded everybody onto starships and colonized the stars, but only a small fraction of humanity was able to actually make it off the planet. Everybody else basically suffocated. The whole planet died. The atmosphere is gone. Earth is completely dead. Gone. What's even more disturbing about this backstory is that the scientist who invented the gravity drive, it turns out he knew this was going to happen because an alternate reality version of himself visited him on Mars and told him, hey, I discovered this thing, this element you just discovered on Mars. I discovered it in my reality. I tested it on the moon, and it killed planet Earth and most of the population of humanity. And you're going to make the same mistake. And he said, and by the way, you probably should do that because it's the only thing that's going to get humans out there in the stars. And, well, you know, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. And he agrees with this, secretly knows this is going to happen. He fulfills this whole destiny. His entire team figures out that he knew this, and one of them commits suicide because she can't live with the horror of finding out about this. So he killed all of humanity's homeworld in order to invent hyperlight travel. How can I put into words how dull, how unimaginative, how dismal, how pathetic of a backstory that is? Even the presentation of it is so lame. It's like, well, okay, you go onto the eerie, barren wasteland remains of Earth to see nothing but sand and rock. Nothing else lives. There's no oceans. It's all gone. But every once in a while, you see one building perfectly intact, mint condition, but nothing else around it. Like, that's the laziest way you could portray the ruins of Earth. No, there's not like scattered like scaffolding and architectural bones of old buildings that have been blown down with maybe one that's kind of still barely standing. No. It's just one. It's like the what's the tower in Dubai? What is it? What is that tower? I forget what it's called, but it's the tallest building in the world. It's the famous one in Dubai. It's standing perfectly pristine, absolutely mint condition. Everything else around it gone for some reason. It's the laziest visual portrayal you could possibly, and you collect little snow globes near these remains. I mean, even Fallout couldn't possibly be that stupid and lame. Like in Fallout, you wander through these ruins and they feel real, they feel lived in, they feel grounded. So even the presentation of this putrid, nihilistic, depressing, miserable backstory, it's as if to say, rather than have to write a complex and complicated story about Earth's history and its current political state, rather than do the work of something like The Expanse or Star Trek or Halo, rather than do all of that nonsense, let's just say Earth is dead. Fuck it. Oh yeah, Earth, oh no, a terrible accident, it's dead. Forget about it. How lifeless, how miserable can you possibly be as an artistic creative to create a video game that is bereft of charismatic characters, intriguing storylines, fascinating moral choices, worlds with life in them? It's one thing to have Earth itself be a lifeless husk. It's another thing for all of the alien planets you visit to be just as colorless, just as lifeless, just as miserable. I can't help but contrast that with Project Hail Mary. It's like, here is a story about the world is dying. The sun is being eaten by a microorganism and we have no way to stop it. And not only that, the stars around us are dying. And somehow that premise becomes one of the most hopeful, aspirational, inspirational, humanitarian stories I've experience in a very long time. As I've said, it was like the 5 best Star Trek episodes you can remember in one wonderful movie. That's what it felt like to me. Star Trek at its most inspirational, Star Trek at its most aspirational, but also at its darkest, all at the same time. That's what you can do with actual talent, it's the difference between the strain of humanity that is incapable, constitutionally incapable of imagining that there is something good awaiting us in the future, imagining that we are greater than the sum of our failings, imagining that we have the possibility of being something better than we are, for all of our failings, for all of our faults, for all of the grotesqueries of our nature, to paraphrase the architect in The Matrix Reloaded, for all of the horrors we unleash as Godzilla often is the avatar of. There is something sacred, special, and important about life in the universe in general and humanity in particular. Why is it that there are so many people in these spaces that are incapable of telling that story? It's striking. It's really striking. And I just couldn't help but feel vindicated when I saw that. I'm like, of course Earth is dead. Of course it is. What else would you write? You absolutely boring, lifeless losers that created this dog shit game. People as dull as the creatives behind Starfield, of course that's what they would say about Earth. Because they're dull. They're dimwits. Fuck them. I'm on a warpath about this one, Mr. Producer. I'm tired of it. I'm so sick of these miserable people and their sick worldview and their miserable politics poisoning the miracle of humanity. We're done with them, folks. Their days are numbered. The shills can have their stupid Baby Yoda bullshit. The rest of us are moving on. We're moving on to better things. We're moving on to aspirational storytelling again. You know, it reminds me again of what John C. Reilly said. You know, what did he say? He's like, having the most cynical take on humanity. We're trash. We suck. It's all just, The Boys is a great example of this. The Boys constantly, even the best people in The Boys universe are trash. They are awful people. They are self-serving. They just don't have a future. And that is the writing equivalent of being an emo, spoiled brat teenager who's like, life sucks. It's the laziest, easiest thing you could write about. I'm not saying it doesn't have its place here and there. Don't get me wrong. This isn't a purity test. I'm not saying that no story is good if it's a little miserable. Trust me, I'm not saying that. I like a good dystopian sob story once in a while. That's not my point. My point is it's so ubiquitous, it's so widespread, it's the dominant mindset, and that's the problem. That's the problem. And it's time we did something about it. It's time we put an end to it. Because after all,
and dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Well, that actually wasn't the clip I meant to play, but that's a good one too. So I'll take it. I will take it. So yeah, I mean, you know, good things are on the horizon, dear chat. So take heart. Wasn't trying to blackpill there, but we're going to talk more about the Starfield thing because I actually have some funny stuff on that. So we'll get back to that. I promise. Is it? Bring the volume down just a skosh, Mr. Producer. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's a little better. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, chat. Wrangler, have a great night. God bless you too, Wrangler. Redoubt Productions, thanks for joining, sir. Always good to see you. Crowbar the Skull, setting me right. Don't watch the Normie channels. I avoid. It's like skim milk. In the words of Ron Swanson, avoid. Always a good time. So, after all, I am your host, Captain Garrett of the Swords of Starships channel, saying, until next time, I'll see you out there.